name's Chris Butchart. I'm Director of M2M Cloud Limited, based in Dundee. So I've been in IoT for a number of years now, actually before it was called IoT. Really, we've been involved in it for the last 15 years. So the first project we were involved in was a fleet telematics solution. So this was a device that was installed in a vehicle, and we were tracking primarily vans, and that grew up to around about 10,000 devices. And that business spawned another business called BikeTrac, who are the premier motorcycle trackers in the UK. So they have over 10,000 boxes themselves installed in vehicles. So the way that works is the box installed in the motorcycle, and on ignition off, the device goes into a state where it detects movement, and on any movement, it basically alerts, and then we track it via a secure operating center who liaises with the police, and then the police basically track the device down and recover it, and obviously give that back to their owner. So that's been a very successful venture. I think they've recovered around 94% of the bikes that were stolen, and then after that we went on to deal in our first notification of loss system, which is basically detecting if vans have been involved in any accidents. So the biggest user of that was Tesco's. So the devices were basically installed in all of their vans. So there's an accelerometer on the box, which was basically making a decision actually on the box itself, whether the van had been involved in a crash. So they installed it in 4,500 of their vans, and then they discovered that there was limitations with it. So we were involved at that point in time. So there was a machine learning project at that point in time that we were involved in. And then that led on to taking that data as well as aggregating some other data and creating a driver behavior and training system for Tesco, which basically rank ordered all of the drivers in the system. Because as you can imagine, you can't go and you can't train all of Tesco's drivers. It's a huge feat. So they basically looked at the sort of the drivers who needed the training most, and then focused their efforts on them. And then after that, we were involved in a water safety management system. So that's called Neptune. So that looks at the conditions within someone's water system, looking at the temperature, flow events, and makes a determination if there's any potential issues in terms of bacterial growth within the water system. And it assesses scald risk, things like that. And in the case where there is some sort of potential issue, it notifies people who are associated with the company. And then leading on from that, we've been extending the Neptune system to look at broader building health in terms of temperature, humidity, and CO2. And we're looking to roll that out into offices and schools. And that's pretty much, bang up to date. So as you can see, I've been involved in quite a broad range of IoT projects over the years.
Nice, yeah, a really nice mix of kind of case studies there, and also kind of a nice journey where you've evolved with your customers and kind of created solutions for them.
Yeah, I mean,
continuously pushing out some technology, for example.
Yes, I mean the guys who we're dealing with on the BikeTrac solution now, we made contact with them 15 years ago, and we're still speaking to them now. So that's the kind of business we like. You know, we're not in it for a couple of years. We want to have a longer term relationship with customers. Nice.
Okay, and then because you've seen the kind of IoT kind of description evolve. She said kind of working on it before it was even called IoT. So if I ask you what IoT means to you, how would you describe it in your own words?
From our perspective, it's about being involved in emerging technologies. So, for example, LP1 technology. As you've seen, we've been involved in so many different projects. The interesting thing for me is the variety of projects. So, with motorcycle security product, we're involved in obviously recovering motorcycles, but also broader socio-economic benefits kind of beyond that. So, for example, there's been numerous recoveries where the police have tracked the motorcycle back to a warehouse, and they've cracked a criminal gang. So in one case, there was 30 motorcycles recovered, hundreds of thousands of pounds worth of drugs recovered at the site, and there's numerous sort of examples like that. In terms of kind of some of the other projects we've been involved in, looking at carbon dioxide levels in school. Obviously, there's massive benefits to the pupils because there's issues with learning retention if the pupils are subjected to high levels of CO2, which is something we see quite a lot of. So that's something that's that's really rewarding to try and improve people's environments. Yeah, and that's probably it. So yeah, we have been involved in lots of exciting projects as compared to what we'd have been doing if we'd been involved in accounting software or something more tedious like that.
Yeah, no, it's very true, very true. There's definitely a variety in IoT.
Yeah.
You touched on kind of LP1, so it's low power wide area networks. Where IoT's kind of, there's a lot of emerging solutions there at the moment. And again, you work across many different verticals there, and kind of on your website and everything, you're talking about everything from consumer products through to industrial solutions. You talked about Tesco there. You talked about movement of vehicles through to water and air quality. If I ask you about the ecosystem, and how, again, from your perspective, from where you are, how do you see the ecosystem at the moment, and kind of where do you see the direction of travel for IoT over the next few years?
So I suppose from our perspective, I don't know if the ecosystem metaphor really makes sense. I mean, I suppose that I would see it more maps onto maybe discrete self-contained systems, which are growing definitely. So for example, with the project we did with Tesco, we were involved initially with first notification of loss. So that's detecting if there's a crash. And then that system was broadened out to looking at driver behavior. So I guess from that perspective, it's a small self-contained ecosystem, but there are clearly boundaries to all these systems that we've dealt with. Clearly, there's a push to make data more freely available, and that's something that we've looked at in terms of using government data. So I guess from that perspective, you could definitely see that as an ecosystem.
Cool. Thank you.
I don't know if does that answer the question?
Yes, it does. And then if I kind of ask us to kind of take a step back and kind of look at it again from a slightly different angle. So a lot of the customers that you're talking about aren't what I would kind of say are typical IoT customers. So it's maybe more, somebody who's looking for to solve a problem, and you're using IoT to help solve that problem, and be it from fight crime through to kind of making drivers safer on the roads. What advice do you have for these customers that come to you and wanting to to work, or they've maybe identified that IoT is an option for a solution. How do you help them get started? What advice would you have for them using IoT for the first time?
So what we normally do at M2M Cloud is we would start small and build from there. So even if there's a potential of installing a device in thousands of vehicles, we would normally start with a prototype. Make sure the device is fit for purpose. So generally, our process is we would see if there's an off-the-shelf device available. If there is an off-the-shelf device available, we would normally get various examples from different manufacturers, test them, see which is the best device that's out there in the market. In the case where there's no device available, we have a company down in Basingstoke who we've worked with for nearly 20 years now, who build devices for us called Alpha Micro Components. We've also got a long-standing relationship with them. We've also worked with Census in the past to build devices, and so then starting with the device, and then build a prototype. We would normally do a system analysis exercise with the potential customer to extract all of the functional requirements, and then identify a minimum viable product. Just sort of strip it right down to the basics, and go from there. And ideally, the minimum viable product would be something that would kind of expose a lot of the risk areas of the system. Because there's no point in in buying thousands of devices, installing them, and then discovering they're not fit for purpose.
Okay, very good advice. Yeah, start small, make sure everything works.
Yeah.
And then if we kind of then say, okay, let's take a bit more of a look at the kind of human aspects within this. So we talked a lot there about kind of what you do, the types of projects, the technical solutions, the kind of process approach. What about more the kind of soft side, the skills, the approaches, the leadership style, the communication that you need to have to succeed in an IoT project right now? Whether that's how you work internally. One of the things you talked about was a culture of the best idea wins. Maybe you could expand on that a little bit, on just kind of the culture that you have and kind of your ways of working.
Yeah, so we work on 2-week sprints with customers, and that's really designed to make sure the customer sees value all the way through projects. So historically, if we go back kind of 15 years ago, the way we would normally have worked is we would have gone into a customer, we'd have extracted all their requirements, and then said, see you in 6 months' time, kind of figuratively, and then delivered a solution to them at that point. The way we work now is far more agile. So we would still deal with the domain expert within the organization, because obviously we're software guys, we know about software, we know about the devices, but we a lot of time we don't know about the actual domain itself. So we'd work with them, identify the kind of primary benefits from the system, and then start to develop something for them, and start to iterate so that they can and give them deliverables all the way through the project. So ideally a deliverable within a month, and they can start to see something working, and then they can start to feedback, this works for us, this doesn't work for us. In terms of dealing with the members of the team, as you say, the sort of best idea wins mentality, because there are very smart guys in the team, even if they don't have years and years of experience. There are lots of time they'll come up with a great idea, and yeah, we would never want to discount a great idea, even if it's come from somebody with who's only just started. So that's the approach that we take.
Nice, some really nice advice there, I think, also. And yeah, the kind of not just a 2-week internal sprint, but a 2-week customer sprint. That's nice. Okay, and if I then ask about kind of success. So we do all of this. You've touched on value a couple of times, about creating value, and your 2-week sprint process there is about showing value or having some sort of tangible value. But I just want to ask you this both as Chris the person, and then also as Chris, the director of the company, kind of what does success mean to you?
So success from the perspective of the project, clearly the commercial angle is important. At the very minimum, the project's clearly got to be cost neutral, and ideally, it should be making money for the customer, and if not making money, saving money. So, for example, with the Neptune solution, that means that you basically install the devices on site. They detect the temperature of the water, and as I said before, look at all the conditions, detect if there's any conditions that are look like they might be encouraging bacterial growth, and then I'll alert the system users. So clearly, in that case, we're saving the customer time. So obviously, time saving and cost saving, and obviously the kind of environmental benefits as well. In the you don't have engineers driving on site, so you're saving on the carbon footprint of the business. I touched on before the kind of broader socio-economic kind of benefits as well. I guess you could see that as a success within a project. If we're able to do something which means that there's less chance of somebody stealing a motorbike, or in the case where they do, the motorbike is returned to the owner, I guess that's one form of success. Reducing carbon dioxide, CO2 within the office environment, the school environment, means that people are more productive. I guess that's success in terms of that project. Yeah, they're the ones that come to mind.
Cool. Thank you. Thank you.